Hi class, so today we are starting a new unit over symbiosis. So let's quickly talk about what the word symbiosis means. Let's start with the first box. It says define the prefix sym, define the prefix bio, and define symbiosis. So let's do that. Alright, so in the first box, we are going to define some prefixes in order to understand what the word symbiosis means. So, the prefix sym means with or together. So in that first box, define sym means with or together. Please write that down, with or together. As for the prefix bio, you're in biology class, so bio means life. So in that line in that box, you are going to write life. Once you put those parts together, symbiosis, that means life together. So in this box right here, you are going to write life together. Symbiosis means life together. So there are 4 different types of symbiotic relationships, and it's on your notes. A, mutualism, B, parasitism, C, commensalism, and D, predation. Let's talk about mutualism first. So in mutualism, that's when both organisms benefit from the relationship. Notice these 2 smiley faces, because they help each other, they benefit from one another. That is known as mutualism. So on letter A, define mutualism, you're going to write both organisms benefit. So please write that down. Both organisms benefit, and that is letter A. As for parasitism, notice if you look at that word, the word parasite is in that word. As you know, parasites are not good. For example, like fleas and ticks. When your dog gets a flea, it starts to scratch itself, it feels uncomfortable, and therefore that dog is sad. So in parasitism, one organism helps itself while harming the other organism. Notice how this face is sad and this face is happy. So that is known as parasitism. On letter B, define parasitism. You're going to write, one organism helps itself while harming the other organism. Key word is harming. If you would like to underline that key word, that is important. So please go ahead and write that definition down for parasitism. Alright, so let's talk about commensalism. In commensalism, that's when one organism benefits while the other is not affected. Keyword, not affected. So, notice this organism is benefiting, it's happy, and this organism is nothing. It's not happy or it's not sad, it's just not affected. So, on letter C, define commensalism, you are going to write, one organism benefits while the other is not affected. Keyword is not. So please write that down for letter C. One organism benefits while the other is not affected. Alright, the last type of symbiotic relationship is called predation. A lot of you are very familiar with the word predation, like the word predator. So in predation, That's when one organism is killed and eaten by the other. If you look at these two faces, clearly look what happened. He died because this monster ate this guy. So that is known as predation. On letter D, please write that answer down. One organism is killed and eaten by the other. Letter D as in dog. It is very important that you understand the different types of symbiotic relationships that are found in the ecosystem. We form many relationships with friends, with families, with strangers, with all types of people and organisms on Earth. And we are going to talk about some examples of all four of those different symbiotic relationships. So let's start with examples of mutualism. We talked about nitrogen-fixing bacteria. Remember those type of bacteria, they live in the roots of plants, okay? So what happens is that these bacteria, remember, they change or convert that nitrogen gas into a form that plants can take up. So on number 1, nitrogen-fixing bacteria give plants nitrogen. Number 1, nitrogen. Please write that down for number 1, nitrogen. So since bacteria give plants nitrogen, plants also give the bacteria sugars. So on number 1A, the answer is sugars. Plants give nitrogen-fixing bacteria sugars. The relationship between bacteria and plants are mutualistic because they both benefit from one another. Bacteria give plants nitrogen, and in return, plants give bacteria sugars. They help each other out, so therefore, they are both happy. Mutualism. Example number 2, pollination. Every single time you see pollination on a homework assignment, on your test, on the STAR test, on a district checkpoint, the answer is always mutualism. Pollination is always, always, always mutualism. So pollination deals with flowers, as you can see, and birds and bees, pollinators. So in pollination, it is always, let me box that for you, always a mutualistic relationship. Always. So, birds and insects gain pollen and nectar for themselves and in return for helping the plant sexually reproduce. Alright, on number 2, what do plants provide pollinators? Plants give pollinators pollen and nectar. That is on number 2. Pollen and nectar. On number 2A, what do pollinators help plants do? They help plants sexually reproduce. Number 2A, sexually reproduce. Number 2B, what are some examples of pollinators? Those are birds and insects. So on number 2B, you're going to write birds and insects. Birds and insects. Those are examples of pollinators, birds and insects. That's number 2B. The last example we're going to talk about is the relationship between bacteria and animals. Remember, in our intestines, we have this bacteria that lives in there. And that bacteria helps humans and animals digest food. And that's very important, okay? So, in return, what we give to bacteria is nutrients and shelter. On number 3, bacteria help animals by digesting food. So that's number 3. Digest food. Number 3A, in return, animals help bacteria by providing nutrients and shelter. That is number 3A. Providing nutrients and shelter is number 3A. All right, so let's move on. On examples of parasitism. Remember the word parasitism. Sounds like the word parasite. It's exactly what it is. Parasites are not good. It makes you sick and doesn't make you feel good at all, okay? So parasites help themselves by hurting another species. A great example is mosquito feeding on a human. You get bitten by a mosquito, not fun. Okay, you get all itchy to the point if you scratch too much, you start to bleed, and that just makes us feel uncomfortable. It's that mosquito is harming us. Also, in this example here, this is a hookworm living in a human host. These hookworms are evil. What they do, they steal nutrients away from you, making you sick. So, on number 4, what do we call the organism that harbors or carries a parasite? So let's say that you are getting bitten by this mosquito. You are harboring or you are carrying this parasite, which is the mosquito, that is known as the host. So you are the host that carries that mosquito. So on number 4, the answer is host. Number 4, host. You are carrying that parasite. Number 4, host. So let's talk about some common parasites that you may know of. The first one is fleas and ticks. Fleas and ticks, they live on animals and feed on their nutrient-rich blood. This benefits the fleas, but it hurts the animal and opens them up to infection. So this poor little pup here has a little tick, okay, or a flea, whatever it is. So what that flea or tick does, this parasite, it pretty much sucks the blood away from this cute little pup. So the dog's going to start scratching and scratching and scratching to the point where it scratches itself raw and it starts to bleed. And if the skin is open, bacteria can enter and it could be really bad. So parasites right here, this no bueno, okay? So on number 5, how do fleas and ticks hurt their host? They hurt them by feeding on nutrient-rich blood. That is number 5. Feeding on their nutrient-rich blood is number 5. Number 6, how do many insects hurt trees? Insects can also be a parasite, okay? So for example, insects also feed on the leaves of plants. If class, remember what process occurs in the leaf of plants? That's photosynthesis. So if this ant, if you look in this picture right here, these ants ripped off or cut off, these leaf cutter ants, they cut off these leaf off of the tree. So therefore, these leaves can no longer perform photosynthesis. And notice, look at all these dead leaves on the tree. That's damage from leaf miner insects, okay, right there. So these leaves are dying. So because these insects are feeding on the leaf, this reduces, which means to lower that amount of photosynthesis that the plant can perform. If these insects bite off the leaf or pretty much tear off the leaf like this leafcutter ant, the tree, the plant, cannot perform as much photosynthesis as it can, and that's not good for that plant. So on number 6, how do many insects hurt trees? You're going to write reduce amount of photosynthesis. That is number 6. Reduce amount of photosynthesis. That's number 6. All right, number 7. How do tapeworms hurt animals? Tapeworms can make your stomach feel really weird and have diarrhea. It's not good for you. It's going to make you feel like crap, right? So anyways, the digestive tract of animals is also a great place for parasites to thrive, meaning to do really well. So tapeworms live in the intestines and absorb nutrients away from their host. So here's a microscopic image of what a tapeworm looks like. And here's what one could really look like, okay, without a microscope. Notice it looks like floss that you use to floss your teeth with. Look how long that tapeworm is, okay? Tapeworms, they're evil. They steal the nutrients away from the host. So a lot of people who have like tapeworms in their system, they tend to have diarrhea. They tend to throw up their food because the tapeworm is just not letting them, digest anything. So this is what causes a lot of patients with tapeworms to lose a lot of weight, and that's not good for you. Your body is not in balance. It's not maintaining that homeostasis, and it's harming you. So on number 7, how do tapeworms hurt animals? You're going to write down absorb nutrients away from their host. That is number 7. Absorb nutrients away from their host. I will also show you this really cool video of a human, a person who has a tapeworm, a parasite in his eyeball. What in the world? And that tapeworm just lives in his eyeball. It's like crawling around the eyeball, turning his eyeball all red, stealing away the nutrients from the eyeball, the oxygen, and that almost could cause him to be blind. So I will show you that at the end of the PowerPoint if we have time. If not, I'll show you next class. Okay, doke. So let's move on to the next type of symbiotic relationship, commensalism. This one is a little confusing because it's really hard to understand what commensalism is. So let's talk about what the word commensalism really means. So on number 8, what organism did the term commensalism originally describe? So the word commensalism means to dine together. Those of you who are taking Spanish right now or speak Spanish, comer means to eat, okay? So commensalism means to dine together or eat together. So this originally described the relationship between scavengers and predators. On number 8, what organisms did the term commensalism originally describe? Scavengers and predators is number 8. Scavengers and predators. Scavengers benefit from the predator's leftovers, but the predator is not affected. So, scavengers, great example of a scavenger class is vultures, okay? Vultures are really scary, actually. What they do, they eat dead organisms that are on the road or anywhere, really. So these vultures, they're pretty ugly birds, actually. I should look it up. Anyways, moving on. So if you look here in the picture to the right, these are little hyenas. So they just killed this organism right here. But hyenas, their belly, they're full. Okay, so they have a lot of leftovers. So what happens, these vultures are going to come in, eat the leftovers of the hyena. Now notice, in commensalism, remember, one is happy, but the other is not affected. It's not happy or sad. It's just not affected. So the relationship class, this is important. Listen up. the relationship between a hyena and the vulture is commensalism. So let me explain. So in this example, the vulture does not affect the hyena whatsoever, but the hyena benefits the vulture. Okay, so the hyena killed that organism, okay, and the vulture did not have to do any work. It just came in and ate the leftover. The vulture does not affect the hyena at all, but the vulture benefits from the hyena. Alright, so on number 9, what part of a predator's meal do scavengers eat? They eat the leftovers. Number 9, leftovers. Number 9, leftovers. Alright, on number 10, what makes a relationship commensalism? So the word has since become to mean any relationship between two species where one benefits and the other is not affected. You wrote this earlier at the very top. Go ahead and write it again on number 10. What makes a relationship commensalism? You're going to write what's in yellow. One benefits and the other is not affected. That's number 10. Number 10, one benefits and the other is not affected. Alright, so another example. We're going to talk about the relationship between this dragonfly here and these red little mites that are on the backs of the dragonfly. So you have some organisms that rely on larger animals for transportation. They ride on the backs of the larger animals without, keyword, without affecting the animals in any significant way. Mites, these red things, mites ride on the back of larger insects without hurting the insects or helping them. On number 11, how do mites rely on larger insects? They rely on them for transportation. That is number 11. Transportation. Alright, so let's talk about another example of commensalism. So let's talk about trees and epiphytes, okay? Incolinism is a type of commensalism where one species uses another for housing. For example, epiphytes grow on trees so that they can gain the water and nutrients that they need. They do not help or hurt the tree on which they live. So epiphytes, even if you do not know what that name is, you just got to understand what the relationship is between that and the tree. As it says here, it grows on trees so that those epiphytes can gain water and nutrients, but those epiphytes don't harm the tree or benefit the tree. Because of that, that is commensalism. Alright, on number 12, what do trees provide for epiphytes? You're going to write down water and nutrients, number 12. Water and nutrients is number 12. On number 13, do the epiphytes affect the tree? And the answer is no. Number 13, the answer is no. The epiphytes do not affect the tree. Okay, the last example of commensalism are gastropods and hermit crabs. You may have seen hermit crabs before. This is what it looks like right here. I've seen them a lot at the mall. A lot of people buy them as pets. They're very low maintenance. They're kind of cute. So on number 14, how do gastropods help hermit crabs? So there are some species that rely on other organisms that are already dead. Okay, it's already dead. Hermit crabs, what they do, they use the shells of dead gastropods, which are snails, to protect themselves. The crab benefits, but the snail is not helped or hurt. Class, think about it. Think about it. The gastropod is dead, people. If it's dead, can it feel anything? Can it be happy or can it be sad? No, it's already dead, people. So, once that gastropod is dead, the hermit crab's going to come in, take the shell to protect themselves, okay? So on number 14, how do gastropods help hermit crabs? They help them by protection. They protect it. So on number 14, you're going to write protection. 14. Protection. Number 15, why are gastropods not affected by crabs? Because they're dead. On number 15, they are dead. Those gastropods are dead, dead, dead. So therefore, that's why they are not affected. Number 15, dead. They are dead. All right. So the last type of symbiotic relationship is predation. This one's pretty simple, pretty easy. Y'all recognize what predation is. On number 16, what is predation a relationship between? It is the relationship between predator and its prey. That is number 16. Predator and its prey. That last sentence on the slide is pretty important. It says, it is important to distinguish predation from parasitism. Remember, these are very, very different from one another. In predation, the organism is killed and eaten, but in parasitism, it's only harming the organism, only harming it, okay? So please be careful whenever you do your homework that you are not getting those two mixed up. For example, parasites. They would make their host sick, but they do not just kill and eat their host. That's what predators do. So parasites, I'm going to underline in green, class, parasites only make their hosts sick. Okay? But in predation, I'm going to underline in pink, predations kill and eat. That's very important. That's a key factor there. Okay, on number 17, what do predators do to organisms they get nutrients from? The answer is in pink. Kill and eat is number 17. Kill and eat is number 17. In just a moment, you're going to do some examples, some practice problems below on your notes. So let's talk about arrows, okay? Arrows represents a big part of food webs and symbiotic relationships. So this arrow is important for you to understand. On number 18, in food chains and food webs, how does the arrow showing a predatory relationship point? And it always points from the prey to the predator. On number 18, you're going to write from the prey to the predator. That is number 18. From the prey to the predator is number 18. On number 19, what does this arrow show the flow of? So this arrow shows the flow of energy. So on number 19, energy. Number 19, energy. All right, so if you look at this picture right here, you got these lions and you got this wildebeest, okay? This is what a wildebeest is. So notice the arrow, where the arrow is pointing. The wildebeest is pointing to the lion. How I memorize it and what helps my students is to think about it this way. Which organism goes into the belly of the predator? So this wildebeest went into the belly of the lion. Okay? So that's why the arrow points to the predator. Alright, so here's another example. So let's say this is me here in pink. In my pink dress. Okay. I'm hungry. So here's my chicken. I'm craving for some chicken. Don't make fun of me now. Anyways, so I want some chicken. I want some chicken wings, some Wingstop. Where would the arrow show to show the flow of energy? Where does the arrow point? Is it going to point to me or is it going to point to the chicken? Think about it. Don't shout it out. Think about it. The arrow, class, will point to the predator. I am the predator, so the arrow points to me. Remember, the chicken goes into my belly, so the arrow points to me, the predator. All right, so let's do some practice problems. I did the first one with you with number 1, cougar and the deer. So notice where the arrow is pointing. The arrow points to the cougar. That is the predator. The deer goes into the cougar's belly. Let's look at number 2, okay? You got the human and the chicken. I just gave you the example. So the arrow points to where? It points to the human. Okay, points to the human. For the mouse and the snake on number 3, where does the arrow point? It's going to point, class, to the snake. The snake is the predator. On number 4, you got the pig and the mushroom. The arrow will most definitely point to the pig. Please write your arrows down on your notes. Write your arrows down on your notes. All right, on number 5, you got the fish and the shark. Where does the arrow point? It points to the shark. Remember, the fish goes into the belly of the shark. All right, number 6, you have the penguin and the polar bear. Clearly, the arrow points to the polar bear. Okay, that's the predator. On number 7, you have the lamb and the lion. The arrow points to the predator. The lamb goes into the lion's belly. Number 8, you got the worm and the bird. The bird is the predator, so the arrow points to the bird. On number 9, you got the frog and the mosquito. Frog and mosquito. The arrow points to the frog. The frog is going to eat the mosquito. On number 10, you have the cat and the squirrel. The squirrel goes into the cat's belly. On number 11, you got the human and the turkey. Thanksgiving, y'all. The turkey goes into the human's belly. Last one, number 12, you got the mouse and the hawk. The mouse goes into the hawk's belly. All right, so for numbers 1 through 10, you're going to decide whether the following relationships represents mutualism. You're going to write the letter M, commensalism C, parasitism P, or predation X. If you want to pause the video now so you can work on it on your own and then check your answers after, you can. That's a great idea. If not, you want me to go over it with you, that's also fine as well. All right, so let's look at number 1. Plants provide fungi with carbohydrates in return for phosphate compounds. So, class, whenever you see the word in return, it is always, class, mutualism. So, on number 1, you're going to write M for mutualism. M for mutualism. On number 2, tapeworms live in the intestines of animals, lowering the nutrients available to the host. Class, if tapeworms, we talked about it, tapeworms lower the nutrients that we want, that's not good. And tapeworms are parasites. And because of that, the answer is parasitism. You're going to write the letter P for parasitism. Number 3, carrion eaters devour the remains of a lion kill. If you don't know what a carrion is, it does not matter, class. It doesn't matter. All that matters is what relationship is going on. This carrion, whatever it is, eats or devours the remains of a lion kill. The word remains, class, okay, means the leftovers. Because of that, that is commensalism. Commensalism. It doesn't affect the lion whatsoever. The lion killed the animal, and then the carrion comes in to eat their leftovers. That's commensalism. Number 4, arthropods live inside the shell of a dead gastropod. We talked about that in our notes, that is considered commensalism. Class, the gastropod's already dead, so it's not going to be affected. So that's commensalism. Number 5, wolves devour a sheep that has been separated from the herd. Devour, killing the sheep, eating it. So that's predation. You're going to write the letter X, predation. Number 6, bacteria live in the intestines of a cow and gain nutrients by helping the cow break down cellulose. They are helping each other, so they are happy. That's mutualism. Number 7, orchids grow on the side of trees without affecting the trees on which they live. Notice these keywords I underlined. Without, always, always, always is commensalism. So on number 7, commensalism. All right, number 8, eagles eat rabbits in order to gain energy and important nutrients. Class, if this eagle eats a rabbit, obviously he's going to die, and that is known as predation. X for predation. All right, so let's look at number 9. Mosquitoes bite an animal in order to gain nutrients from the blood of the animal. As you know, mosquitoes are no bueno. They're mean. They make you itchy. So they are parasites. They're biting the animal to get the nutrients from it. So on number 9, you would write parasitism. That mosquito makes you sad, makes the animal sad. So that's parasitism. Last but not least, humans use horses for transportation while providing food and shelter for the horse. So because horses help humans, they're happy. And humans help horses by providing food and shelter. So both are happy. That's mutualism. Mutualism.